Hello and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be turning this cigar box into a beautiful Gothic mixed media box. So here's the final result, and I'm going to give you some tips and tricks along the way in case you want to make your own. So let's get started here. So first off, you're going to see these, which become the decorative sides. I made these. It took me probably 4 days for them to dry. They're not made out of clay. They are made out of something else, which I have a short on, and I will link that in the description below. So I usually make these in bulk, which is why I don't have me recording making them besides in my short, and they'll sit around until I'm ready to use them. And they are paintable. They're bendable for about a day or two, and then they harden to like a really hard, almost a resin consistency, but they're super cheap to make. So I will link that short, so if you want to watch how they're made and if you want to learn how to make one of these boxes, I recommend watching that. And then allocate 4 days to a week perhaps. When they were not next to my dehumidifier, it took a week for them to dry. Next to my dehumidifier, it took 4 days about. It depends on your mold. These are kind of thicker, so that's why it took longer. A thinner mold won't take as long. It'll take maybe 2 days. Sometimes they're dry in a day, depending on how thin the mold is. This is the top of the box here. I'm painting over the whole thing because I don't want to see that silver emblem thing. So it actually takes 2 coats to cover the whole thing in black. And then the sides were dry, so I'm using some epoxy glue, and I'll link all my supplies down below. And I'm attaching it to the sides here. On all the sides, which is really hard to film, by the way, because my camera is only up so high. And so when things that are larger like this, it kind of goes off screen, like you can see here, and that stinks. This is also cuttable, so when you get to your edge like I just did there, you can just cut a piece off and then, glue it. So you'll see right here, I believe it's this side. The edge is a little too long, so I ended up cutting it. Nope, wasn't that side. All right, one of the other sides then. So I did a second decorative piece on 3 of the sides. I couldn't do it on the back because the back didn't have hinges. The whole thing was like one piece. I don't know how to describe it. It wasn't a hinge per se, but if I put another decorative piece on top in the back, it wouldn't open all the way. It would hit into each other and it would not be able to open. So you wanted functionality here, so I skipped that top piece in the back. That's kind of a little sneak peek of what it's gonna look like then. But these are little decorative pieces that go on top of the larger decorative piece, just to kind of give it some more layer to it, as you will, and also to cover some of the writing that's on the box there. So here I'm using Caulk to cover in these little tiny grooves. They're very small in between and on the sides, and then you need to wait about a day for that to dry. You don't have to do this part. I think it just looks a little more clean and a little more nice with that covered up, but it's completely up to you. And you can see I got some caulk on the top there that I then have to clean off because I'm a mess. I'm a mess all the time. So just continuing to smooth out those sides and just kind of make it look nicer. And then once it's dry, you're going to paint over that part. Unless you're keeping yours white, then you can just do a really quick top coat of the white. But obviously, paint everything black, so mine is black. And I think that the black will look better with the overall finished look versus the white. I have done a few in white, and the next one I'm doing is actually going to be in white. I know, shocking. But this one I think just looks better in black. I did think about doing a dusting of silver over the black so you can get some more of those details that are in on the side. But ultimately I decided I just didn't want to do it. Maybe it would have made it pop some more, or maybe even gold, but I don't know. I just kind of liked it as the black, and I just let it go. I'm also not painting the bottom here, and you'll see why in a minute. You can choose to paint the bottom if you want to. I chose not to. So the inside sides, you can see, were not fully black, and I wanted them to be black, so I took it downstairs and spray painted it. I didn't record that because it's kind of boring. This is contact paper. Again, this is optional. I have it already, so I was going to use it. You would just peel back a little bit at a time and then put it down and smooth as you go. This was really hard to get off of here. Like, I struggled here. It took me, and this is sped up, and it took me that long. So again, just peeling off the top a little bit and then pulling from underneath, smoothing as we go, and keep going. And I didn't like how the inside, you can also see that silver decorative thing through the white. So I just ended up painting over that, waiting for it to dry, and then re-putting on that top one. So another tip here is if you are going to use contact paper, you're probably going to have one side that's almost a straight line. You want to line that up with the edge on the top, because that's going to be easier for you to cut than it will be to line it up with the bottom. And if you don't line it up exactly, the whole thing is going to just get a giant crinkle in it. So you want to make sure that you kind of line it up as best as you can. Those goggles up on top there are actually for a mixed media that I'm working on, that the video should be done probably in a few weeks. It's going to take me a while to finish. It's really large. So here we go again, just smoothing as we go and just making sure there's no bubbles, there's no wrinkles, and we're good. And I just use my fingers to roll along the sides, the corners there, and then a really sharp knife to cut it. You can use an X-Acto knife. I couldn't find mine, so I'm actually using a utility knife, but either would be fine. Just be careful not to cut yourself. And then I also use the knife here to run along the edges and just kind of cut away the excess. It wasn't working here, so I actually took that piece of cardboard, put it underneath the lid, closed the lid, and then used it to cut away the excess. That was just a little bit extra, but it's always better to cut more than it is to cut less. You can always cut it away, but you can't really add it without it looking silly. So this is going to be the middle where my finger is, so we're going to try and line up the design with the middle. Normally I'll use painter's tape to tape it down, but sometimes, and not always, but sometimes the painter's tape will take up the paint. So I've actually gone away from doing that and just kind of finding some heavy objects around my house and just kind of putting them down in strategic areas so it doesn't move. You really don't want it to move while you're ironing it, because if you do, that's going to cause wrinkles and it's not going to look as pretty. So another tip here is you want to kind of keep your iron off of your painted surface as much as possible, because it's going to bubble up the paint a little bit. It's not super noticeable, but you will get some imperfections in the paint. So try and only keep your iron on your iron-on. This is a t-shirt iron-on transfer, in case you're wondering. And you want to go really slow and keep your iron on the cotton setting. And just keep smoothing over it until you're sure you got the whole thing. And you're going to know when it's done, because right now it's really cloudy, but there's some silver in it, and I don't think you can really see here, but see those little bits of silver? Those are going to turn more translucent, and that's how you can tell that it's done. And another way you can tell that it's done, which I'll show you in a second here, is you're going to peel up the side. And if there's any transfer left on the transfer paper, you're going to put it back down carefully and then go back over it with your iron. You really want to wait until it's cool to take the transfer paper off. If you take it off while it's hot, it could stretch it and then again cause some wrinkles, which kind of ruins your design here. So just wait till it's cool. Just be patient. It's a couple minutes. So here I'm testing how hot it is, and it seems pretty cool. So I'm going to show you, this is what I'm talking about here. So you peel it off and you can see the transfer is on the box and not on the transfer paper anymore. another tip, if you're looking for transfers to use, you want to get ones that the back of the transfer, the image, is actually like bumpy, because that's going to give you a better adhesion than one that's just flat and like has no bumps to it. It's not super bumpy, but it's like textured, I guess you can say. So this is the top coat that I used. It's made by Behr, and I actually really like it. I've used other top coats in the past, and this one doesn't have a smell to it. I mean, it's very, very, very faint. It's a very low VOC, so which is good for you and good for the environment. Well, better for the environment. It's probably not great for the environment. I did do 2 top coats there. Normally, this part I would actually recommend getting a pencil or a pen and drawing along the side of it, because you can very easily cut your box. But I was lazy and I didn't feel like doing that, so I just cut it with the scissors. This is actually a velvet sticky back that I'm going to put on the bottom. And this step again is optional for you, but I already have this because I make a lot of boxes. So you can see how beautiful that shine came out. And there we go. There's the finished product. So see those beautiful details. I hope you guys liked it. Give the channel a like, and I'll see you next time. Stay spooky, my friends.